Well, welcome back to Tough Men of Faith.
What are you doing, man?
I'm getting this thing going.
Yeah, you need to.
No one else is going to keep it on track. You can see probably it doesn't look like most days. This is the first time we've had 4 people on at once. So, yeah, we're
Dangerous.
It's well, yeah, for more than one reason. Yeah, so we're gonna jump right into it. Nick, you want to introduce our guest?
Yeah, we got returning radio personality Daniel Earle
Oh, hi.
and Haas Ridgeway.
Yay.
Welcome back.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Right.
Since
It has
been
been a
on.
while. Daniel's been on way too much lately.
That is true. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me just jump into like the details. Blake gets mad if we don't say real quick.
Oh, yeah,
we got
yeah,
the
yeah.
barn gathering coming up.
April 25th.
April 25th.
Yep.
We have about 5 slots left for that.
Awesome.
So not a lot.
Okay.
But yeah, get signed up for Tough Men of Faith.
Good. I mean, 7 people have signed up.
Yeah, yeah.
It's going to be good.
Yeah, a few more in that.
Okay.
But we are a limited number to that, so yeah, get signed up.
Yep.
And then check out Increase Jesus.
Yep.
And use Tough-10
Yep. Tough-10 for 10% off.
their merchandise. So
Yeah.
all right, let's jump into it.
All right.
Yeah, you ready? So the topic today is attack your work with purpose.
Here we go.
Here we go. I just figured I'd just
Well,
open it up and we'd go.
We're going to try something different. And then Haas is like, wait, I've already got notes for this.
Yeah.
I was supposed to be here weeks ago
I've
and
already
couldn't
prayed
get
about
here.
it and
Yeah.
got it all. No, I'm just kidding. I don't have it figured out.
Right.
Yeah.
We're trying to get it together.
All right, who wants to start?
You know, it's interesting that you brought this topic up because I'm actually in the middle of writing a book called Finding Your Fight. And that's really what I'm working on. I'm 10,000 words into this book, and I'm trying to figure it out. And
That's a lot
just
of words.
telling story is a lot more than I normally have in a day. So, but the whole idea of this book idea that I mean, it may never happen, but I mean, I'm halfway there anyway.
Yeah.
So, is that I used to tell my daughter all the time where she would miss an audition or didn't hear about something, and I was like, you have to find your fight. You have to find the motivation, or everything's going to pass you by.
Right.
Like you just can't sit by and let it doesn't just happen. Things
Right.
don't just fall in your lap. You
Yeah.
don't look at Michael Jordan and say, he just woke up one day and he was a tremendous athlete.
Right.
And he practiced every day more than you can imagine, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like
It's like RT with his preaching. He practices every day and he's still really mediocre.
he's still mediocre. Right. Yeah. And mediocre. That's
Shots
great.
fired.
So good encouragement there. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
But
Wait till you hear what I got to say about my preacher.
right. Well, can you mute his mic? That would be great. And purpose is about everything. Like I wrote down this, with purpose as our compass, we avoid the shores of regret and sail toward true destination. Like we got to have a meaning for what we do.
Yeah.
And fight for our place in this world, and fight for our family, and fight for our beliefs, and stand up for ourselves. Otherwise, we're just going to be taken advantage of and pushed aside, and not give up when things are difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. When it doesn't go exactly as you planned or wanted it to.
And I found a few examples in life, like for instance, J.K. Rowling's from Harry Potter, which is against Baptist, isn't it? I think. That is.
Yeah.
But the point isn't that that's a.
He looked at me and
From
said,
the-
yeah,
from
like
the
he
end-
needed to convince me.
From the Anti-Baptist Archive.
Yeah.
But it's more of a, how accomplished as far as that
Sure. Yeah.
series went. She was turned down by almost everybody until finally some. So you can think about the Penguin publication that is out there said no to Harry Potter, and how many billions of dollars did
Right.
they say no to?
Right.
Or Leo DiCaprio 6 times was nominated for an Oscar,
Yeah.
and didn't get it.
Yep.
And then Julie Andrews comes along and does Mary Poppins, first film ever, gets an Oscar. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's who's got the fight,
Right.
Right. Alan Jackson turned
Yeah.
down by every single, record label in Nashville until Arista Records said yes. Can you imagine this? Columbia is over there going, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Here in the real world, sold 12 million albums in his
Wow.
debut.
Yeah.
They said no to $30 million. Like, oh, you can't sing. Well, let me show you something. Arista saw something there.
Right.
Like, when we get a no or we get a disappointment, the question is, where are we at? What are we doing?
Yeah.
with
What do you
that?
do with it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you heard the story of Sylvester Stallone in the movie Rocky?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that guy. He actually sold his dog. He was so broke that he sold his dog
Yeah.
while he was trying to produce the movie Rocky.
Wow.
And I mean, now, yeah, all you got to do is say the name. Everybody knows it.
Right.
But a lot of that was fully, self-produced. He just kept hustling, believed in the project. And come to find out, he's a little bit right. So maybe not about Rocky 23.
Yeah,
But
the-
Rocky
Yeah,
1,
so
he
right
was
now.
right about.
well, I mean, yeah, he was offered money that I would have said yes to.
Right.
Like, was like $200,000 to buy the script from him when he was broke.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I would have been like, sure.
Yeah, here it is.
But the difference was, I didn't write it.
Right.
It wasn't my baby.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I didn't have. I mean,
Yeah, you didn't know where it could go, or you didn't have the dream of where it could go.
but he did.
Right.
And so much that when they wanted to replace him as the actor,
Yeah.
and I forgot who it was they wanted to put in, but it was definitely not. I can't even see it even being successful with that other guy.
It was probably Sean Connery.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to win today.
That's the only reason I brought up Sean Connery.
Yeah.
I love it.
Hello, Adrian. Adrian, what are you doing tonight? That was just, I would not. It probably would not be. what
I'll
it
be in
was.
one ring only. See, I shouldn't even try.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can imagine though the things in my book. I talked about a couple of stories where I had misplaced motivation, and so, like for instance, when I was in 8th grade or 7th grade, they had this art project, and all they gave us was like a square, a circle, and a triangle, and they said glue it together. That's the whole project. When I'm like looking around, going, okay, I'm going to be impressive to all these girls around me by making fun of it. So I turned the triangle into a pyramid and made it crack, and I made the circle a sun, and the square was like another piece of the pyramid, and it was all cracked and chipped, and I was making all kinds of little men on it, and I thought, ha, 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 and I turned it in. They hung it at the mall saying, look at this incredible artist, and I'm like, what if I had just made that same effort to be accomplished rather than to make fun of things.
Right.
And and just be a person who has that drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times have we messed that up?
Yep. What I love about that title that you gave, Find Your Fight, kind of reminds me of Nehemiah in the Bible, right? So he's a cupbearer to the king.
Right.
And he's like, hey, the walls are down. Something has to be done about this. And then he makes it personal. He's like,
Yeah.
I'm just a cupbearer. I'm going to travel over there and do something about
Yep.
it. And so it
I'm gonna
became
start
his
fixing it.
fight, right? So
Yep.
that's where maybe let's talk a little bit about, like, how do you think guys find their fight?
Well, it really is harder these days than it ever has been, because obviously the culture that we're in is trying to demasculate us all. I know there's a better, more $10 word for that, but I'm just
No,
using that.
I think
one.
that's pretty much it.
Yeah, but they're trying to make us like
We know what you meant.
right. We can't be accomplished and strong and all those kind of things, because then it looks. Everybody calls that whatever.
Yeah.
You're. I forget these words because I don't really use them like
Yeah.
everybody else uses them. But the point I'm trying to make is, I think we have to find it by believing. Like, what do we have our faith in? If we put our faith and our trust in God first, then we'll find the fight that we need.
Yeah.
Because what they're doing is they're out here. It's the misdirect. The rope-a-dope. You think you're winning against Muhammad Ali while he's leaning on that rope. Well, while he's leaning on that rope, you don't know that every punch, the rope extends and takes away every punch from
Yeah.
Yep.
any impact on you, and you wear yourself out in the wrong spot.
Right.
Right. And that's what we're getting rope-a-dope by this world.
Yeah.
Yep.
Every day. So how do we find it? That's the biggest question is, what do we want to accomplish? What's the most important thing? Are our priorities in the right place?
Yeah.
So the first thing to find your fight is finding your priority.
Definitely. One of the big things I think is that we don't turn to God often enough, and just
We're
simply,
guys, we got it.
right? Yeah. But I mean, what about the question? What if we just sincerely went to God in prayer and put it in front of Him and started that conversation? And then, so I always like to set up this phrase, right? If at first you don't succeed,
Try again.
No, you're probably normal.
Probably.
I mean,
Yeah.
everybody who's normal doesn't succeed at first, right?
Yep.
Dennis Tooley says, if at first you don't succeed, skydiving's not your sport.
Right.
But I think that sometimes we kind of get initial results, and sometimes even if there's a promise in front of us, it's struggling through that initial thing, right?
Right.
But I don't know. I always go back to the scriptures, and we kind of forget the context that Moses was 80 years old when he stood in front of Pharaoh. You know, Joseph's term in prison. Nehemiah had to experience some awful, awful things before he comes to this moment. And it's like there's a dream, a vision, or a purpose that's just on the horizon, and it's so easy for me to want to give up on it. But I do know that some of the things that God put in my heart, it's so weird being here and doing this podcast, because I can remember when I was a little kid. I wasn't 5 years old, and sitting in the auditorium here at Villa Baptist Church, and I could envision myself preaching to thousands of people when I was a child. I remember going to youth camp one time, and I had this impression like God wanted me to be a missionary to Africa. And it really wasn't until about, I don't know, 6 months before I went to Africa that I was like, oh my goodness, that was inside me all the way back when I was a teenager. But, you know, it takes time to develop those purposes.
I remember when I was in grade school and a missionary came to stay with us from South Africa, and he did a presentation at church, and I thought the same thing. I'm going to Africa one day.
Yeah.
And last year was my first time going to Africa.
Yeah.
But when I was unpacking a box that I found some childhood little things that you save, and some of them you're like, I don't even know what that is, you know. But one of them was a coin that he gave me from South Africa, and that's in my desk right now.
Yeah.
To remind me that God places these things on our heart, you know, to draw us to do the things that we're called to do. And I just think about, like, Michael Jr. has this thing where he's always like, find your why.
Yeah.
You know? And the truth is, to find your fight, you have to know the why.
Yeah.
If my why is to impress people, then I'm going to wear myself out.
It's going to
But
be
if-
way short.
Right. And if my why is to impact the world with what God has put me with, impact is a better word than impress.
Yeah.
Because if I impact your truck, that's not getting fixed easy. But if I make an impression, you'll
Yeah.
pop it out, right?
Yeah.
So that's how that works.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's key on this, like as men, like if we looked around our houses, maybe we can find a lot of projects we started but didn't finish.
Yep.
And so I think even when it comes to life with our purpose or finding our fight, I may look at your fight, and be like, I really want to do that, but God hasn't called me to that, right? There's a specific fight that I think God calls us to, that we're uniquely gifted in that area. He sets us in a context to be able to do that, rather than trying to fight everyone else's fight.
Absolutely.
And I think sometimes we're just asking the wrong questions. I mean, if you're looking around thinking, gee, what's God's will for my life? I just don't know if I should be a father. But you already got 2 kids?
Yep.
I mean, duh, right? You know, I just don't know if God wants me to be in this marriage. Well, are you married? And I know
But you started this marriage.
I know I just went like way hard, and I'm not saying every situation is going to work out perfectly, right?
Right.
But you are in it, right? And so, and I think that sometimes, like really, I confuse my feelings with my fight, right?
Yep.
Like if I'm waiting on the motivation, I mean, there's so much stuff I don't feel like doing. I don't feel like going to work, but you have to, right? Sometimes you don't feel like working out, but you have to, right?
Yep.
And we just know that
so they say.
right. Well, I mean, there's some things in life that it's going to take like gut level discipline.
Right.
And I mean, if you want to cry all the way through it, then, honey,
Yeah.
take your tissues with you because you don't have to, but
How many-
just do it.
How many men we see that married for 30 years and walk away from their spouse, and you're just like, it took more energy to end that relationship than
Yep.
it would have had to fix that
Yeah,
relationship.
then you probably put in it for the last 30 years.
Yeah, and you cost you way more.
Right.
Like you want to, okay, let me start with half of everything that I own
Yeah.
and try to rebuild my life.
That's
How-
the lie they tell you.
Right.
Trust me, it's more than half.
I get it. It's half plus payments. You know what I'm saying? It's like half down.
Half's the down payment.
Half down.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, what's that old stupid country song? It's cheaper to keep her. You know what I'm saying? Like, but truthfully,
Sage advice brought to you by
My-
Tough Men of Faith.
My dad told that to my wife, and she reminds me of that all the time. She thinks it's the funniest thing to remind me. That it's keeper to keeper.
well, one person was making a joke. I was at a card shop, and this lady had brought in this incredible collection of cards, and I was just like, these are really awesome, you know. And someone goes, "Be careful, I also want to marry." And I was like, first of all, already married.
Yeah.
Second of all,
Not doing that again.
Second of all, I don't want to be trained twice.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I don't need that in my
Yeah.
life. You know, it's like, so, you know, when we think about the fight, why are we not fighting for our family instead of
Fighting for
having
everything else out
feelings
there?
for the world? Like you
Yeah.
made that distinction, which is very important, that we run on feelings way too much. You know,
Absolutely.
And by the way,
But guys don't have feelings.
no, yeah, we do.
But see, that's the big discussion. I hate to interrupt you, but I mean, this is a
did.
hot topic for me. Okay, I'm mildly disturbed that I interrupted you. I really
Right?
don't.
Okay, mildly.
But you know, and like, I forgot what was I going to say?
Well, I'm going to say what I was going to say. 'Cause I remember. No, go ahead.
I did.
No, it-
Misdirect. Master of misdirect.
That's right. I just remember my puppet right now, but
No, go ahead. I'll remember.
I don't remember mine now. So that's
Oh,
ADD
man.
strikes this wonderful
we go.
podcast. No, for real though, I think that like you know, the energy to fix our problems instead of make fun of them or give up on them. It's just like, for instance, I've heard as a minister, I've been in ministry since '92. I've heard more than once someone say, "God wants me to be happy," and I'm like, "Wow, I think you've mistook the Bible for the Constitution."
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is not. Is that the Constitution or is that the Bill of Rights?
Yeah,
I don't know
Constitution, yeah.
Constitution, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you help me
Yeah.
get it right, brother. But listen, that's not Bible.
Right.
Joy is what he's calling us to, and where joy is found is in faithfulness. Faithfulness to our family, faithfulness to the fight, what God is calling us to.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember what I was going to say. So it's
Bring
about
it.
feelings, right?
Yeah.
Like the feelings thing. And I think that as men, we were like so bad on this is we want to deny the fact that we have feelings, right? And because we don't own and embrace the fact that I'm experiencing a feeling, then we can't identify triggers. We can't identify where we're at positionally. And so I think, you know, we've really got to be aware of that. And if someone says, "Man, you're grumpy today," you know what?
Yeah.
They might be right.
Yeah, maybe you are.
You know, and maybe you need to like own that and say, okay, my feelings are out of line, and
Yeah, maybe I am grumpy today. What caused it?
Yeah.
You know, how did I get to this place?
yeah, bring it back
Yeah.
in.
Versus, I don't have feelings. I'm a
Yeah.
tough man.
How many times
Right.
we blame everybody else for our quote unquote feelings? That
Oh,
you
gosh.
made me mad.
Right.
Nobody can do that.
Right.
Yeah, it's all
And-
external, always somebody else's fault
Like,
for how I feel.
If
right?
I think that someone else can make me happy, then I don't understand
Right.
happiness.
Or look at how much power you're giving that other person versus keeping it for yourself.
Right.
Because ultimately you're the one that's going to be happy, or you're the one that's going to be upset, or not just going off of what they did. You give them that power and dominion over you when you let them.
We can't let someone else control us like that.
Right.
You know, and I remember when I was a teacher in Texas in middle school, and I said public school, and they let me teach. I get it. I'm in school, and this kid goes, "He made me so mad." And I was like, "Nobody can make you mad.
Yeah.
That is a choice." And
Yeah.
they're like, "But he said," I was like, "No,
I
no,
did
no."
something you didn't like, and you
Right.
decided to get upset over it.
Yeah,
That's on you.
I've been disappointed by a lot of people in my life,
Right.
and that doesn't mean that they have the power to control my emotions. Now, I'd get hurt, and whatever.
Yeah.
There's a realistic human side to this,
Right.
but still, we can't try to seek happiness from someone else. Therefore, we can't let them control us to make us angry or any of those kind of things.
yeah.
I like that.
I learned something. So I was in a financial training seminar one time, and they were talking about stocks.
Is this a pyramid thing?
Well, it is now. Now that I got a hold of it.
Your buy-in's not
Yeah.
as high as you think it is.
No, but It was a legitimate thing, but they
That's
were
what they
talking
said.
about right. That's what they said right before they took my
Sounds like a
$30,000. But they were talking about the difference between stocks and stock options, right? Like if I buy a stock, I own that stock, right? I'm tied to its highs and I'm tied to its lows. I go where it goes, right? But when you buy a stock option, it only means that you have the option to buy it at a predetermined price.
Gotcha.
And in the middle of this class, I thought, my goodness, the things in my life I think I have stock in, they were options the whole time. I mean, I didn't have to buy in at that point, and that it was overpriced, you know. And there's other great values in my life that I think are optional that I should be. Those are hot buys, man.
Right.
You know, I need to buy more time with my
Yeah.
family.
Those are
Invest
the ones
more in
you
my
should be
kids,
investing in.
Absolutely,
Yep.
and you should be tied to them and ride the highs and ride the lows
Yep.
and hold them for the long haul and let a lot of these other things be options, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's sometimes you got to use the analytics on what your
that's true.
fight is.
Let me
Use the
bring this back
analytics.
around because we're about there on time. You made a statement at the very beginning. You said find your fight, but then you also talked about your purpose being your compass.
Yeah.
Could you just speak a little bit to that? Because that stood out to me. I know there's more to it, but that's the part I caught.
Yeah, if our purpose is in Christ, right, that is our compass for everything, then we see some opportunities as not godly because what God calls us all to, we think it's live on this street, in this house, with this wife, with this whatever.
Yeah.
And that's why we get that romance to think that maybe that was my soulmate.
Yeah.
No, faithfulness is our purpose. And that compass will guide us away from the rocks. It'll guide us away from bad decisions. If we're like, will this keep me faithful to God?
Yes.
Will it make my children be faithful to God?
Yep.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah. That's great.
I like it.
This has been a good episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. We could talk about this for hours. So,
Man, we didn't do any of the comedy stuff.
well,
Oh, well.
you guys want to stick around for another one?
Yeah, we'll have to have you guys back
Oh,
for
you
next
wanna
week.
Let's do
another
another
I
one.
think
Yeah.
so.
All right. Well,
Another
thanks
one.
for joining us today
Yep.
for Tough Men of Faith. Check out the Barn Gathering
The
coming up
barn
in
gathering,
April
April 25th.
26th. It's 25th.
What? 25th.
I don't know. 25th. You're
Yeah.
right.
Rachel's upset because it's right after our anniversary, and she had planned on me taking her out that night, which that's not going to happen now. So
Bring her to the Barn Gathering.
I don't think she'd be interested.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't even like me. She's
Hey,
not going to
man,
like a bunch
we,
of me's.
We just want you to run that for us and let the rest of us know how it plays out.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. We'll see you guys next week.
Thanks again.